The Keddie Cabin Murders. 4 dead, no answers. Cabin 28. April 12, 1981. Keddie, California. A remote mountain town with only whispers for neighbors. Cabin 28 sat at the edge of the woods. That morning, 14-year-old Sheila Sharp returned from a sleepover next door. She opened the door and walked into a nightmare. Her mother, Sue Sharp, lay on the living room floor, bound with tape, beaten, stabbed. Next to her, her 15-year-old son John and his friend Dana Wingate. Both boys had been brutalized, bludgeoned, strangled. But the horror wasn't over. Sue's younger daughter, Tina, was missing. No sign of her, no blood trail, just gone. 3 dead, 1 vanished, and a town that would never sleep the same again. A house of secrets. The crime scene was chaos. Blood spattered the walls, furniture overturned. Duct tape and electrical cords were used to bind the victims. But there were no signs of forced entry. Whoever came was either invited in or felt comfortable enough to walk through the door. The murders were vicious, rage-fueled. More than 20 stab wounds. Blunt force trauma from a hammer and a steak knife. The blade was bent from the force. The youngest children, Rick, Greg, and a friend, Justin, were unharmed, sleeping in the next room, or so they claimed. But could they really have slept through that horror? Or had they seen something and were too scared to speak? The missing girl. As investigators searched the cabin, one question echoed louder than the rest. Where was Tina? The 12-year-old had vanished without a trace. No blood, no signs of struggle, no clues leading out the door. Flyers went up across California. Her photo on milk cartons. Helicopters searched the woods. Divers combed the nearby rivers. Nothing. She was simply gone. Months turned into years. Until April 1984, exactly 3 years after the murders. A bottle collector walking through the woods in Feather Falls, 30 miles from Keddie, stumbled across something. A piece of a human skull. Near it, a child's jacket. A pair of Levi jeans. Dental records confirmed what they all feared. It was Tina Sharp, murdered, dumped, left to rot in silence. Silence in the Sierras. The discovery of Tina's remains deepened the horror. This wasn't a break-in. It wasn't random. It was a targeted massacre. A family slaughtered. A girl taken and dumped 30 miles away. But still, no arrests. The Plumas County Sheriff's Office was overwhelmed. Mistakes piled up. Evidence wasn't sealed properly. The cabin wasn't cordoned off. Reporters and curious locals walked through the scene within hours. Sue's file at the local welfare office was mysteriously stolen just days after the murders. Witnesses changed their stories, and rumors spread like wildfire. Affairs, motives, cover-ups. But with every passing year, one truth became clear. The killer had walked free. Perhaps he still lived nearby. Maybe he still drove past that empty lot where Cabin 28 once stood. The prime suspects. Two names kept surfacing: Martin Smart and John Beau Boubaid. Martin was a local man, a known abuser with violent tendencies. Beau was his friend, recently out of prison, staying with Martin. The two were seen together the night of the murders. After the crime, Martin's behavior grew erratic. He told a therapist, "I killed the woman and her daughter, but I didn't have anything to do with the boys." Years later, that statement would resurface, but at the time, law enforcement dismissed it. Beau fled town. Martin divorced his wife and moved away. Both died in the early 2000s. The case? It stayed cold. Evidence boxes stored, witnesses aging, and the forest kept its secrets. A case reopened. In 2013, over 3 decades after the murders, the case was officially reopened. A new sheriff, a new generation of investigators, and a promise to bring justice to the Sharp family. The original evidence was reviewed, old leads re-examined, interviews reconducted, and then a discovery. A hammer was found in a nearby pond, matching the description of one that had gone missing in 1981. Rusted, but real. The weapon, possibly tossed by the killer thinking it would never be found. And there were letters. One written by Martin Smart, admitting to hating Sue Sharp. Another hinting that Tina had seen something she shouldn't have. It wasn't hard evidence, but it was something. A trail. Faint, but not gone. Truth through whispers. Rumors never stopped in Keddie. Even after 40 years, people still whispered in diners and hardware stores. Martin did it. Beau was the muscle. Law enforcement looked the other way. But some stories were harder to ignore. A retired sheriff's deputy admitted evidence was mishandled. A surviving child claimed to have seen the attackers, described men matching Martin and Beau. One investigator said plainly, "We know who did it, we just can't prove it." Cabin 28 was eventually torn down, but the ground still remembers. Every board, every nail, soaked in screams, and every silence that followed was a silence filled with guilt. The ghosts of Cabin 28. Today, nothing remains of the cabin, just trees, dirt, and the memories no one can erase. For the Sharp family, the pain never left. Sheila, the girl who found the bodies, still lives with the trauma. She became a mother, but the shadows followed her. Every creak in the floor, every night too quiet, reminders of what she saw. The case is still considered active. DNA is being tested. Files continue to be reviewed. But decades later, justice is a long, cold road. And in the mountains of Keddie, some truths may have been buried too deep. Closing thoughts. 4 lives stolen in the dark. A mother, 2 teenage boys, and a little girl who vanished into the trees. The Keddie cabin murders remain one of America's most haunting unsolved cases, not just because of the brutality, but because of the silence, the mistakes, the people who knew more and said nothing. In a country filled with legends and monsters, sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that really happened. Subscribe to the American Mysteries Archives for more true crime stories that dig into the forgotten, the buried, and the unexplained. And remember, not every ghost haunts the afterlife. Some still live among us.
Subscribe for more chilling mysteries. Thanks for being here. See you in the next time.